Hello, everyone, and welcome to a playoff edition of the RGVSports.com Google Hangout. We done with the regular season. Now we can look forward to the bi-district playoffs. I'm as probably excited as you are, Mario. Let's introduce who's on our panel today. Mario Aguirre over here will be discussing some big games. Mario, your thoughts on the regular season, Mario?
On the season? Sorry, you broke up.
Yeah, dude, on the season.
On the season's been great. I mean, I had a chance to see 3 of the top 10 teams in the Valley, 3 of the top 8, so pretty good year.
Now, here we go.
And Mr. Greg Luca. Greg, let's get your general thoughts on this was your first season of covering Valley football. What were your initial impressions?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, there's some good teams, there's some not so good teams, there's some good games, there's some blowouts. Yeah, it was an alright year. The playoffs will be interesting, I think.
Yeah. What was maybe something that either surpassed your expectations or did not meet up to your expectations going into this Valley football season?
Wow, how about that? You know what, I will say that this game I was at last week with Westico East, there was a lot of people there. They seemed to be pretty fired up. They were into it. I liked that a lot. So I'll give that. That will probably surpass my expectations, at least based on the turnout at some of the games I was at in the middle of the year. It was good to see that the people can get fired up and get into it when they have to.
Nice. Good.
On a rainy day, too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Not the best of evenings for high school football. Mario, we're going to start with you. We're going to just look at games last week that were the big games. There were actually quite a few of them that had big playoff implications. You were at maybe the biggest, Roma and Valley View. Pretty much whoever wins gets in, whoever loses is out. And Mario, just talk about that game. Just talk about Roma making the playoffs for the first time, and I think 25 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and Coach Becker has been there for the last 8 years. This is his 8th season. They've been close the last couple of years. This time they had the chance to get it outright because they beat Sherland Pioneer the week before. But I mean, this was Roma all the way. I mean, I didn't really think there was any doubt that Roma would drop this game against Valley View. Valley View has struggled all year. They only had one win. They beat a depleted Rio Grande City team. So Roma's in, and they've looked like a different team the last 2 weeks with all the Ramirez at wide receiver. Their offense has been pretty one-dimensional all year. They've just pounded the ball with Peter Rodriguez, who leads district in rushing yards. But now with Aldo Ramirez, RJ Garza is able to throw the ball a little bit more, gives them a different look, and they've been successful the last 2 games with Ramirez back. They won the last 2, and now they're headed for the playoffs for the first time as the number 2 seed in Division 1.
Okay. Mario, well, first of all, I was looking at Rodriguez, 220 yards and I think a touchdown last week. I mean, how dominant was he against that Valley View defense?
Peter Rodriguez?
Peter Rodriguez, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing it all year. I mean, we've seen his stats all year, and he hasn't really been. I mean, I think he averages 5 yards per carry. Not great, but I mean, he leads district in rushing. He's their featured back, and he gets as many carries as anyone out there. But I mean, I don't think he really stood out because they spread the ball a little bit more. He carried it. Ramon Espinosa, their second back, carried it a lot too. I think he had like over 100 yards in that game, and they threw a little bit more. I think they only completed, I forget how many it was, but I think maybe 3 or 6 passes. But I mean, that was enough to excuse me, to get things going for them. And yeah, I mean, they look like a different team. I mean, I saw them against Mission Vets, and they just pounded the ball against Mission Vets, and they lost 14-0. That was a game that they really had a chance to make more competitive, but they didn't because they were just one-dimensional. But now with Ramirez out there, they look like a different team, and I think we're going to see a different team than we did the first 8 games of the season.
Mario, there's been a lot of talk with Valley View coach Bado Pena about whether he's going to resign, whether he's not. There's a lot of rumors out there, a lot of speculation, misguided speculation. You've talked to the coach. You've got you've gotten a sense for what the real deal is. What can you tell us about Coach Pena's situation over there at Valley View?
I mean, he's heard it, and he even admitted during the year when we spoke that he heard the rumors, and I mean, if I had to guess, I would say that he's going to resign. I spoke with him after the game, Players really stood there and hugged them for a long time. I guess sensing that it was their last game with them. I mean, he's had a tough 2 seasons. They were 3-17 the last 2 years. He feels like he let the team down. He says that he's been part of other teams as a coordinator where they bring him in to help turn around the team, and he hasn't been able to do that in 2 years. I don't know if that's I don't know what his expectations were. I mean, it's a tough district, but I mean, I'm sure he expected to win more than 1 or 2 games the last 2 seasons. But I don't know if maybe the talent was there. I don't know how much he really could have done in that sense. But I mean, like he told me after the game, he said that losing really wore on him during the year, and he's going to talk over with his family and see what he decides. But I mean, I would expect him to resign soon enough to give the school enough chance to find a replacement for him.
Okay, good deal. And Greg, you mentioned Wesco East. That was for the 31-6A district title. What did you see from that game, and exactly how much of on a roll are the Wesco Panthers?
Yeah, Westlaco's on an unbelievable roll now, winning 5 in a row. Would come away as the outright district champion here. I thought this was a really good game. It was a lot of fun to watch. They were not a lot of possessions for both teams because they both run the ball so much. So they went into halftime very close. I forget what the exact halftime score was, but it was so close because both teams had only had the ball 2 or 3 times. And then all of a sudden in the second half, Westlaco got a couple of touchdown runs from Brian Guerra, really long runs, 50 yards or more. And Westlaco East struggled with a little bit of injuries. Lupe Marone and quarterback Darren Rivas, their 2 primary offensive weapons, the guys who carried the ball the most, had ankle injuries that they were nursing towards the end of the game there. So it came down to Westlaco East still had a chance to drive to score and tie it up at the end, but second play was intercepted in the end zone, and Westlaco High won 28-21. Like I said, really good game all around. Lupe Marone had to play quarterback on the final series because Rivas was banged up, and I think that cost them. But I did think Westlaco High looked like the better team and played like the better team and deserved to win the game for as close as it was.
I know, Greg, you've talked before the defense, how good the Westco High defense is, and they're one of the best in the Valley. The offense is starting to come around. How much do you believe in momentum, and how much do you believe of how good this team actually is going into the playoffs?
I don't know if I believe in momentum in the sense of just because they won games, they're going to win more games, but I do believe that this is a better team than it was at the beginning of the year, just because they've got the offensive line pieces together that have gelled, and now those guys are experienced, and now they're doing a good job of keeping the slot T offense moving. And the defense is as strong as it's ever been. They have a sophomore linebacker, Jordan Nichols. He has made a few big plays in that game, stopping guys behind the line of scrimmage. There was a key stop on a 4th down play in Westlaco territory that could have led to a score if he hadn't made the big stop. And then they have Michael Torres at linebacker, who's been doing it for a couple of years now and does a great job, and that defensive line is deep and talented, and Rene Perez at defensive end is one of the standouts there. So, again, they just have a lot going for them offensively and defensively, and I think that's a really good team, but I wouldn't sleep on Westlaco East either. I still think their ability to move the ball in the ground game is really, really impressive, and I think that defense has come a long way from where it was in the beginning of the season. So both teams are looking pretty good heading into the playoffs as long as those ankle injuries for East are healed up in the next couple of days here.
I was going to actually ask you about that with Rivas and Marone. Do you think, I mean, you saw them out there, do you think it was anything serious, or is this anything East fans should be concerned about?
You know, anytime the guys finish out the game or are at least standing, on the sidelines and thinking about coming back in at the end of the game, I tend not to worry about it too much heading into the next week, but that was how I felt about Fred Hover, and that did not work out well last week. He obviously didn't play in that game. So it remains to be seen how it turns out and how they start feeling in the morning and how they're feeling heading into this game. So that'll just be something that we have to keep an eye on as the week progresses, and then they'll probably keep it a little bit secretive, and then I guess we probably won't know until game time, and I would guess same thing with Hover while we're talking about it.
Yeah, you mentioned Hover, and we'll get more into Mackay and Laredo Alexander later, but with Fred there, what do you know about his situation? I know Youngblood looked pretty good back there last week apparently at quarterback, but you think there's any chance Hover misses the bi-district playoffs, especially his senior year?
I mean, it's really hard to say. You would hope that he can get back, but I don't really know. I have to ask how the scheduling came to be because I don't think they would have wanted a Thursday game given the situation there. I think they would want all the time they can get. So I would assume that came down to some sort of lost coin flip where they were forced into a Thursday game by somebody who clearly knows what the situation is there. So that doesn't help his chances, but there's also the possibility that he could have gone in the last game, but they wanted to rest him. I know after the game, Brewer did not elaborate to our reporter who was there about what the situation was or what the outlook was for the next week or so, which is kind of predictable. I think that's something that they're going to keep under wraps. So I'll try my hand at getting an answer this week. I don't know how far I'm going to get with that, but I think it really will probably be a game time thing where we won't know for sure until then.
Right. Okay, and in my game, Donna at Couch Elsa, Donna High needed a win to get in the playoffs. They got exactly what they needed. And then some 34-7. Amante Bowen makes his return, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. Looked like he hadn't missed most of the season. Looked really good. That's going to be a pretty nice dynamic in the backfield there for the Redskins. At Couch Elsa, that's quite a whimper. They're going into the playoffs. They got a big game against Sharon next weekend. I'm sure they wanted some momentum. They did want some momentum, and they got anything, but they looked horrible against Donna High. But Donna did what he needed to do. Even though PHA Southwest won, Southwest 6-4 on the year, they end up on the outside looking in. Unfortunate for them. But the Redskins, Amani Bowen now, I think that makes them a real dark horse. Do something, gives them 2 big physical running backs. Should Coach Romero one season with him and Algeta. And then, of course, you have Edward Dorr in your center for the Redskins. So that's that. That's what happened last week. Let's go to what's going to happen in the bi-district round of the playoffs. A lot of good games on tap. Mario, nope. We're not going to start with you just yet, Mario. We're going to go with Greg. Because, Greg, we mentioned Mac High and Laredo Alexander. How much of a danger zone is this for Mac High, considering, one, Laredo Alexander is coming off a huge win in its rivalry game against Laredo United last week. 2, Aaron Swain, the quarterback, is back. He was hurt early on. That allowed them to dip in the standings a bit, and now he's back. He's healthy. And we don't know Hover's situation. So how much of a catch is this for the Bulldogs, another bi-district opponent that could end up coming up to bite them in the end?
Yeah, this sucks for Mac High, to be honest. This is just a really bad draw. I mean, you think about last year when they played Rivera and they got upset, and that was
Don't call it an upset, Greg. Don't call it an upset.
Right. Well, that was obviously really disappointing for everybody involved in the program at that point, and I think coming back this year, that's something that pushed them, and now you get the opposite of that, where you get a team that is, a traditional power and somebody who's been really strong all year, and the only team in the Valley to beat Sherryland. So I think even at full strength, Mac High would probably be an underdog in this game, especially going to Laredo, that just another factor that's stacked against them. And now with the injury situation and having the game on a Thursday, this is not going to be easy for them at all. I do not envy Mac High's situation here, but again, I wouldn't be shocked if they won either. I think if they can get something going, if Fred's healthy and they can run the ball a little bit, maybe they can shorten the game that way and pull something out. I know Alexander's a team that likes to pass, so I don't know. I guess a lot of it remains to be seen, but I don't love their chances just based on what I know at this point. I got to see what I can learn throughout the week and do some more research on Alexander and see where that gets me, but don't love it at first glance.
Well, let me add to it, too. Alexander beat Sherryland, and Alexander wasn't even playing its best game. Like, Sherryland was in control most of the game, and they still beat Sherryland. So even on Alexander's quote-unquote worst day, they could beat a Sherryland team. So I think that doesn't bode well for Mac High's hopes of trying to escape the first round this year.
Right, and I think if you just look at their competition throughout the Valley, it's fair to say Sherryland is a step ahead of Mac High just based on this season. So, Again, there you go. Not looking great, but again, we'll see how it plays out.
Speaking of Alexander, you mentioned their passing team. They love to score points. That spread offense is something Coach Joel Lopez holds dear to his heart. Aaron Swain, which is the brother of Brian Swain, who was another terrific quarterback a couple of years ago. He's much similar, both threat, run, pass. And Mario, you actually saw Aaron Swain play, I believe. What was he like against Sugarland, especially against that formidable defense? And what impressions did you come away with the Alexander offense?
Well, it was the Aaron Swain show. I mean, he passed for over 300 yards. They have a pretty lanky wide receiver. I mean, I don't have his height in front of me, but I would imagine he's like 6'3", real mismatch for any team. especially here in the Valley, where, I mean, we don't really see too much height here in the Valley. So, I mean, just with that combination of Swain and the wide receiver, I'd imagine Mackay's going to have a really tough time trying to match up just physically in that sense.
Yeah. I know when I was covering Laredo. Yeah, sure.
I'm thinking about how Mackay has played against the pass this year, and they shut out Rowe, which, okay, but that is a team that passes the ball a lot, which you don't see a lot. When they faced Carroll, was that a team that threw the ball a lot, or were they more of a running team? I don't remember how that played out, and I know you were there.
Yeah, Carroll was more of a running team. They had a real dominant back whose name will lose me right now, but they got most of their stuff on the ground. Rowe could do a little bit more balance than Rowe, but Carroll was primarily a running team. They just gashed Mackay the whole game.
So I guess we haven't, another thing that's, I don't know whether it plays into Mackay's hands or not, but we haven't seen how they really handle a passing team aside from Rowe, which is obviously not as strong as Alexander's going to be. So just another kind of test that they have that it's going to be tough to say how they'll stand up to that once we get into the game here.
Yeah, another thing Lopez, he likes to put his cornerbacks, defensive backs at receiver. Which, Mario, you mentioned the high receiver. That's not surprising. He would have 6'2", 6'1" guy defensive backs, and he would put them at receiver simply because he likes height there. That's not a surprise. He's real creative offensively, but what he does is he pulls from the defense, and that tends to defense a little bit. So interesting if Mackay and
Well, Death?
Yeah, I think we lost him there.
Yeah.
But
what I think he was saying was that Alexander's pretty good.
He wanted you to say something about their height and how they use their guys on the perimeter and how that factors in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Sherryland High, I mean, most coaches here, 131.5, they would say that Sherryland High is really second to none athletically in the Valley. I mean, just they're fast, they're big. I mean, I think even our sports editor Peter was saying too that he wants to get into Sherryland High's conditioning program just because he sees the difference in those players compared to everyone else. So I mean, I think that was the one game where Sherryland really met their match in Laredo Alexander, and I mean they're on a different level. I would say if Aaron Swain were in the Valley, he would probably win. I mean, I wouldn't say MVP, but I mean he would be first team quarterback, offensive, whatever you want to call it. I mean, he passed for over 300 yards, and it didn't seem like he really struggled to get there against Sherryland.
So yeah, going to be a tough game for McAllen High. Dennis, are you back? No, still no Dennis, it looks like. All right, well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to run down the games in 31-6A real quick, or at least some of the ones that stand out. What jumps out to me is that there's a lot of rematches. You look at Weslaco High playing Harlingen High. That's a rematch of a game that Harlingen won by a point early in the year. I believe on a punt mishap, Weslaco was trying to punt it, and they ended up turning it over deep in their own territory on a bad snap, something of that nature, and that led Harlingen to get the game-winning touchdown. So there's a rematch. Then there's a rematch of Weslaco East and San Benito, which was a game that I was at earlier in the year, that Weslaco East won pretty handily, but still I thought San Benito looked like a pretty strong team, and they went on to prove it. And then PSJ North plays Brownsville Rivera. That is not a rematch, but that's going to be an interesting game, just because, like we talked about a little bit up at the top, Rivera coming off a win against San Benito and having won 5 in a row. And then the other game that we have to look at is Edinburgh North and Los Fresnos, which is also a rematch of a Week 1 game that Edinburgh North won with a last-second field goal. So that's the big storyline there as far as I'm concerned, is that there's just so many rematches or so many games that we've seen, and that these games, at least Los Fresnos, Edinburgh North, and Weslaco and Harlingen played close games. So it'll be interesting to see if that plays any sort of a factor in the rematch and what they do with that knowledge of the first game and how much these teams have changed since these non-district showdowns. So I think that'll be the interesting thing for me to look at as we go through this week. Not so sure how well it stacks up for the Upper Valley teams. I would take Weslaco over Harlingen most likely. I think Edinburgh North is going to have a tough time with Los Fresnos. I think PSJ North is going to have a tough time with Rivera. But I think I would take Weslaco East over San Benito, although I think that San Benito team is playing a lot better now than it was then. So those ones will be interesting. Mario, do you want to talk about some of the matchups between your district and Dennis's district, and then we'll see if we can get Dennis back in here to give his side of it?
Well, it looks like Dennis
Can
is
you
there,
hear
right?
me? I think I'm back.
Oh,
Yeah.
good, he's back. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I got done with my stuff, so you guys can take over.
Yeah. Well, I
Okay,
mean,
Mark, you want to go first?
go ahead.
You want to go first?
Yeah. By district, Sherryland High is facing Ed Calchalsa. I don't know if is anyone going to pick Ed Calchalsa in this in our picket line this week?
Ha!
No.
No.
Not even Dennis.
Yeah, and I think Dennis has been one of their biggest
horrible.
believers. Yeah, I mean, I think this is I mean, Sherryland High really has, excuse me, expectations of going. I mean, every program says they want to go to state. I don't think Sherryland will get there, but I mean, I think they at least expect to break past the third round. So for a team like that has those expectations, I mean, I think they should breeze by the first round or at least just win. I mean, I don't think they'll really be challenged against any of the teams in the Valley. I mean, you saw in the season opener, even against McAllen Memorial, the number 2 team in the Valley, they beat them 59-28, I believe it was. So I don't really see Sherryland High being challenged until they play some of the schools outside the Valley, you know, like the Laredos of the world. Once they get there, I think that's when I may have to give it a closer look. But I mean, I think Sherryland has Ed Calchalsa's number in this matchup.
Dennis, your thoughts? Are you there? No, we don't have him. Just move on to the next one. We're going to go without Dennis. No, Dennis is gone. Don't even listen to him.
Okay.
Are you there, Dennis?
Sorry.
Okay,
Are we
go
good?
ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm here. Okay.
Okay.
Hurry.
Just talk.
Yeah. Oh man. I don't even. Yeah, I think everything Mario said is right. I think with Sheridan, that's just a different class than the rest of the Valley. And Calchalsa, I thought might be able to give them a chance, but they need to show up in a big game. They just haven't been consistent all season, and they've got a lot of. They got sophomore quarterback, and they've got some other young pieces on the defense, but their inability to put together a complete game. And I know this sounds cliche-ish, but that's not good. That's not good that they haven't been able to be consistent over an entire football game. And you're not just going to expect that in the playoffs, especially against a team like Sheridan. We mentioned with Mac High being kind of caught up with like Rivera last year and Laredo Alexander this year, just like real unfortunate by district pairings. And Couch also had Alice last year in the by district, which is maybe a good second round in the game here. So that's unfortunate as well. I think they've gotten dealt a pretty unfortunate card, but this team is a year, maybe even 2 years away from being really, really good, and I think we're going to see that going to be proven next week.
Good stuff.
Okay, and let's go on to our next Mission Veterans and Donna. Mario, I don't know what you're expecting out of Mission Veterans, but with what I saw out of Donna, I don't know how Vets defends the run, but I expect Donna to kind of come out with I don't want to say easy victory, but a good enough win to where they're not really challenged throughout. I don't know what your initial impressions are or what you can tell us about Veterans.
Mission Vets lost against Sherryland High, which I mean everyone lost against them, but they also lost against Vela, which I think a lot of teams would consider on the same level, Mission Vets and Vela. But Vela really has had a great year. They finished 9-1 overall, and I think they really proved that they're the second best team in district. Mission Vets came in with the best defense in district, but I mean Vela didn't have any problems putting up big numbers against them. This game was decided by the third quarter. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I really Mission Vets beat the teams that they were supposed to beat, but they didn't beat the bigger ones like Sherryland High, Edinburgh, Vela. And so in this kind of game, I mean, I really don't think that there's going to be much of a surprise. I mean, they've been the team that we more or less expected. I mean, they very well that they had the opportunity on Friday or on Thursday, excuse me, to kind of change that our impressions, and they didn't. I mean, it wasn't even close against Edinburgh Vela. So I mean, I think they could end and their season could come to an end in the first round, and that's unfortunate for them because I know they had high expectations. I mean, they were talking 10-0 district title, breaking past the second round, but I mean, they didn't come close to the title. And they finished the season 7-3. So I mean, I have to pick against them in this matchup.
Yeah, I think exactly like what you said. They needed to win one of those games, not the Sheridan game necessarily. They needed to put up at least a more competitive performance against Vela. I thought it's not necessarily bad that they lost. It's just the way they lost, and I don't know what it is about Mission Veterans, but they always come in like you expect more and more out of them, and they just seem to. I don't want to say disappoint, but they let people down, and I think that's going to be shown against Donna. Donna has a mentality like. They've played in the big games. They've beaten good teams in the big games against at Catch also was a perfect example. And I just think the Redskins, Amani Bowen's back, Paul Guerra is on a roll, Mike Thomas, Edward Doherty. I just think these guys are going to be able not to have a field day with that Mission Veterans defense, but pretty much to do whatever they want. That defense. What do you think, Greg? I mean, is this?
Here's my thing with Mission Veterans is I don't think that they've had a single game all year where it was like, wow, that was a good job, Like
that's why they beat the teams they were supposed to beat.
And even then, it wasn't really that decisive for the most part. I don't know. But at the same time, Donna's a team that had to go on this little run here to even get in the playoffs, and they were not a team that was even considered early on. So maybe it's like a Wesco situation where I should be giving them more credit just because of how good they've been lately. But at the same time, that's a 7-point win against PSJA, beating Porter and Donna North, and then who knows what happened last week. If we're judging just off last week, then sure, but I don't know if that was just a one-game thing for them, because other than that, they haven't looked like a team that was going to be the kind of team that would blow out Ed Couch. So I don't know. I guess if they play like last week, then yeah, definitely I would think that they can have a decent time with Mission Vets, but if we were picking this game 2 weeks ago, I think it would be a toss-up. You know what I mean?
No, I completely agree with you. I do think Amante Bowen's return makes a difference. If he's not in the picture, I actually think it's close, and maybe I lean Mission Veterans' way, but I just think he's a difference maker. And what I did like about Donna is they went up against a formidable Ed Couch also defensive front and just completely tore them apart. They won the battle of the trenches so decisively against a bigger, stronger, senior-laden group that was impressive. And to see them do that in a big game situation kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And then you have Monte Bowen, who I didn't think he played that well right away, and if he is capable of that, and if he can write off that, this is a Donna team that was in district title talks when the season started, when Bowen was healthy. And so I think they're that good. Looking elsewhere, Mercedes versus Roma, I don't think that's going to be
Careful,
close.
Dennis.
I think Mercedes has too much firepower. I like the defense at Roma, and I think it would be a great story if they won. But Mario, I mean, you can probably back me up. You see Mercedes, that's just too much of an offense for even Roma to handle.
We don't have to spend a lot of time on this one, I don't think.
Greg.
I was going to lean that way, Greg.
Roma's best shot, and this is going to be playing lights-out defense, but even then, I don't think it's going to be enough to withstand Mercedes' firepower. I mean, if they're even close to where they were when I saw them early in the season, I mean, this should be a Mercedes win by halftime if they have the same kind of firepower that they displayed early in the year. But, I mean, Roma's not going to get in a shootout with them, so, I mean, they're really going to have to do their best to come up with their best defensive effort and play almost a perfect game to have any shot of trying to compete against the Mercedes.
No, I agree. Roma's got to force turnovers, and they've got to keep possession, which means they've got to. And that's the Mercedes defense. We're talking about the offense right now, but that Mercedes defense is as good as the offense. That's just a tough task. Good job for Roma for making the playoffs, but I think it's going to be short-lived.
Yeah, how are they?
The other big game is at PSG High, and I don't know about you, Mario, but I'm kind of going in between. PSG High's defense is the real deal. And I really like the way that offense is played since they put Troy Flores back at quarterback 5 or 6 games ago. They have looked excellent. But what can you tell me about Vela? Because Vela to me just hasn't been that impressive. I know they were 9-1, but they manhandled Mission Veterans team. I don't know how much of that was Vela and Mission Vets. And other than that, I think they were close against Rio Grande City. I think Rio Grande City missed an extra point. What do you think about this game?
Dennis, I think there may be just enough room for you to join the Edinburgh Vela bandwagon. They may just have enough room, Dennis, because I think they've won every game. I mean, decisively. I mean, they they've blown out just about everyone, I think. But Sherryland High, they lost to Sherryland High 27-24. And I think
Okay.
Coach Mike Salinas said it best when he said they're a third-year program who came within a field goal of tying the top-ranked team in the Valley. And that's pretty much all you need to know about Vela, and that they're growing really fast. They're having a breakout year. They're outscoring everyone. Like they're putting up. They have arguably the best offense in district. Their defense, I mean, was a little bit questionable. I think during non-district, I think they gave up more points than they should have. I remember against Pace, I think they let them score 21 points maybe. But I mean, Vela's going to win games just by scoring more than the opposing team, and that's really what it's going to come down to. That wouldn't really depend. Yeah, I mean, it really wouldn't depend on a stout Edinburgh Villa defense. Although they did show it against Mission Vets in Week 11, where they intercepted. I think it was 2 passes, forced a couple fumbles. But I mean, Mission Vets also did themselves in. They had a safety. I mean, Mission Vets didn't look all that good, but I think Edinburgh Villa is a clear number 2 team in 31-5A, and I think that's good enough to beat PSG High in this matchup.
Wrong. Mario,
No.
just tell me a little about Everett Lopez, and how good is that offensive line? Because that PSG High defense, they're big, they're strong, they have a terrific front seven, and I have a feeling if they can get to Eber, they're going to make Vela's life miserable. How good is that offensive line, and how good is Lopez escaping pressure?
I mean, Sherryland High has a lot of athletes on both sides of the ball, and they still really couldn't contain Lopez. Lopez did what he normally does, and Mission Vets has the top defense in district, and Lopez again had another big game. But I mean, Lopez is. I mean, I didn't really see it at first, but I mean, Lopez is pretty strong. There were at least 3 instances when I saw that Mission Vets was trying to tackle Lopez, and he just lowered his shoulder a little bit into him, and he just knocked him out. So I mean, I think it's really going to take I don't know, it's going to take a lot to try to bring that Vela down. I mean, I know a lot of their offense runs through Lopez. I mean, he runs the ball, he passes the ball, and they have 5 really good receivers, 4 good running backs. So I don't know. I can't really see any way that PSG High pulls this out. I mean, even if they do hone in on Lopez, I mean, he has 3 other capable backs. So I mean, I think Vela has too many weapons to really be contained. Or at least at PSG High.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. It's possible we're looking at a similar matchup to Mercedes and Roma, where a very good defense goes up against an offense that simply has too many weapons. So I guess that's possible. Guys, are we leaving anything out as far as next week's playoffs? Is there anything that we maybe missed that you want to say you're really looking forward to as far as RGV Week 11? I guess it is, or 12.
12, yeah. I mean, the only teams we didn't touch on are Palmview and La Jolla High. La Jolla Palmview has to play against Laredo LBJ in Laredo, and La Jolla High has to play against Laredo United in Laredo. Both are going to be really tough games. I don't know if I would favor either La Jolla team in that, and I don't know enough about those Laredo teams yet. I haven't done the Max Preps research and whatever else I can find to try to get to the bottom of what they do well. But just looking at their results throughout the year, I would think they deserve to be favored. Both Laredo teams deserve to be favored in those games. So I guess to check into the podcast for more, I'll be smarter by then, but I think right now that's the way I'm looking at it when I break those down for this weekend. So that's basically, I guess, between that, we've touched on every Valley team and all their matchups this weekend, unless you want to go to the small schools. I don't know what the scenarios are there.
No, because the small schools are going to get killed. Gruya is I think Gruya is the only one from our side, the Upper Remy Valley, that made it, I believe. I don't have the pairings in front of me. I believe they're going against Lavernia.
I got it here.
Lavernia is... What?
I got it here. Give me a second. Gruya is playing Lavernia. Yeah, that's going to be ugly.
Yeah, because Lavernia is state-ranked. Gruya has been battling injuries all year. They're 1-8 team that made it to the playoffs. Not good. And then I just think we were actually discussing today, all the small schools in the Valley, they're just... unfortunate pairings. They're going to get killed. They're playing teams in the first round that have legitimate state championship aspirations. Let's put it that way. Even Port Isabel, even who are out there, Rio Hondo, teams that have had solid years are going to get wiped out simply because it's just splitting those small schools up in Division One, Division Two. We're going to see how costly that is next week. Next week, yeah. So that's it for the small schools. I mean, there's not much to say. I would be shocked if there's any small schools in the Valley left standing come this time.
Dennis, who's our Cinderella story?
Ooh, Gray, you want to take this one first? I got to think about it.
Well, are we talking small schools or overall?
Overall.
Good question, Mario. Man, he's on his A game at 1:26 a.m.
AM.
Yeah.
Does Rivera still count?
Huh?
Who?
Does Rivera still count, or are we talking about?
Yeah, you can go with any team in the Valley.
Put it this way: if Rivera looks like it's gonna they'll go to the second round, and a lot of people in the Upper Valley didn't expect that after they went 0-5.
Right. I think they deserve to be favored against PSJ North. That's fair. But how about? I think Palmview would have a chance to pull an upset. That would be shocking.
Okay, that makes sense.
On the scale of surprising versus likely that it happens, I think that's probably the best bet. Because just like I kind of keep going back to when it's a team that runs the ball, if they can put a couple long drives together, suddenly it's a one-score game in the fourth quarter or whatever, and then somebody fumbles, and then you get a lot of things can happen if you can control the ball and shorten the game that way. So I think against another team that I think likes to run the ball in Laredo LBJ, there could be not a ton of possessions, and then whoever gets a break here or there could come out with it, and then that would be very surprising. I would think if Palmview were to come through in that game. So that would be the upset pick. If forced to make an upset pick, I guess I would say.
Okay. Here's my. I think Mercedes third round, but that's not surprising because they're good. They're a good team. I think Donna High it would be my Cinderella team. After what I saw last week, and if Amase Bowen is, I can't believe that kid broke his collarbone. I really can't. He looked like he hadn't skipped a beat. And if that's the case, I think they have the potential. That run game, that defense, they are so big and so strong in the trenches along those lines that they're going to make life difficult for whoever they're playing. Donna High is my Cinderella team. I've had to pick one, and I have Mercedes. I'll put it this way. I have Mercedes going the furthest of any team in the Valley in the playoffs this year. Mario, you?
Dennis, well, I mean, I'm not surprised that you picked Mercedes. I mean, you've been their biggest advocate all year. Not that they're not deserving of it, but I think third round might be a little too much. I mean, who would Mercedes face in the second round?
In the second round, they get Gregory Portland or some other team. I forget who Gregory Portland is playing.
So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Mercedes will beat whoever they're facing in the second round.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Gregory Portland and someone else. Is it Kalala?
What division are they in?
They're in Mercedes is D2.
Okay, hold on. I'll have it in 1 second.
So you think Mercedes will outlast Sharyland High?
Gregory Portland or Medina Valley?
Medina Valley. You're right, Greg. Yeah, it's either Gregory Portland or Medina Valley, and I think they have a great shot at winning whoever comes out of that game. And Sharyland, yeah, I think Sharyland gets by a couch also. I think they trip up in the second round.
Dennis.
I think it ends up being, if I'm not mistaken, it probably ends up being Sharyland High and Cal Allen in the second round.
I'm trying to find them. Why can't I? Mario, where are they?
Sharyland would be D2.
Yeah, Division 2. They're the number one seed.
I thought I just did a find for Sharyland. I don't know why it didn't come up. Yeah, I don't. Oh, for some reason they're not filled in. But here they are on the bracket. Yeah, they would be. Right now they're Team TBA, but yeah, they would be facing Somerset or Cal Allen, which is not what you're looking for.
That's the thing. And Somerset is probably going to beat Cal Allen, and Somerset has got a real good team. That's coached by the son of Coy Detmer, who's a big Mission guy here. He was huge. And Somerset is the real deal this year. Somerset is a team that can also win the state championship.
Greg,
and that's who she's going to be facing in the second round.
Sorry, Greg, check their max preps rankings just to see.
For what?
Their max preps rankings?
For what teams? Sherry Linden for Cal Allen?
Yeah, for that Callan's. Yeah.
Okay.
Carolina's not going to beat Somerset.
Oh, Somerset then.
Well, I'll check both of them. Sherryland is ranked 240 in Texas.
Oh.
Oh.
I thought it was like one something.
Oh. Well, what do these rankings even mean?
Yeah, I don't know what the max rep rank is. I don't think they mean anything.
You know what it means? It means number one at the picket lines all season. That's what it means.
Somerset is, Somerset is 427.
Number one, you predict Sherland to lose in the second round.
Anyway,
I'm not
Somerset is 427. So there you go.
There you go.
And Cal Allen is 277. So yeah, Sherryland all the way.
Thank you, Max Gross.
The
Anyway.
Mario Geary system.
Yeah.
So Mario, who's your surprise? Who's your first team?
Rivera.
Who's your Cinderella?
Rivera, Brownsville Rivera. I mean, second round, another good season. Last year they finished in the second round too. I mean, I don't know. I think this is the exact same thing as last season. They start off slow, make a big comeback. This time they actually tie for the district record, and I think they have a very good chance of advancing to the second round, and that's a win. I mean, in their book, I think that's a successful season for them.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Well, we addressed pretty much everything we need to know. We'll know more on the RGVSports.com podcast coming Tuesday. We will all be a lot smarter, a lot better researched in that regard of the upcoming matchups. So be a lookout for that. Follow us on YouTube, RGVSports.com. Follow us on Facebook, RGVSports.com, and follow us on Twitter, RGVSports. For Mario Aguirre, for Greg Luca, I am Dennis Silva with RGV Sports, the Monitor. We will see you next week.